Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Marty Van Ravensway, Commissioner Precinct 2. Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Our invocation today will be delivered by our own Dave Barrett from the Sheriff's Department. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges. Thanks, sir.
Shall we pray? Almighty God, on beautiful days like today, we are reminded of your goodness, your mercies as new as the morning, your grace as white as the sky. Yet when we deal with the myriad of problems and issues we must deal with, we're reminded of our own smallness, neediness, and mankind's tendency to error. Therefore, we invoke your infinite divinity to encompass our finite humanity. We ask that we might be your instruments so that our lives and our world will become what you desire it to be, what we dream them that they can be, what you working through us can make it to be. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Dave, thanks.
David, would you leave that with Crystal, please? Thank you.
Mr. Manius, agenda announcements.
Thank you, Honor Members of the Court. We have several announcements for you this morning. The first one is under the public hearings. This is a consent item. We did provide you with a revised court communication. There was just simply a change in date as to when the advisory board meeting will be held, and that will be held on April 25th, 2009. The clerk's office already has that particular change. Also, members of court, under Human Services, which is 9F1, this is the program agreement with Stream Gas and Electric. We're going to ask that we hold that for 1 week. Then finally, members of the court, I'd like to introduce someone, a new intern in our office, Chris Brown. Chris, please stand up. Chris is currently working on his political science degree from UNT, and he is also finishing his first year as a city council member of the city of Bedford. It's very welcome. Commissioner Fickus, we're going to try to train him as best we can and send him back to your precinct then.
Thank you. I think he'll be easily trained.
Welcome aboard, Chris. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of May the 12th. Move approval. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have several proclamations today, I believe many of which are for ratification purposes only. The first one is for Memorial Day, and I'll be delivering that come Monday, so I would move its approval.
Second. I appreciate you taking over that responsibility from me.
Thank you, Commissioner Brooks.
And I appreciate the time that you spent after me.
Well, let's got to go around.
Marty's next.
We have a motion and several seconds. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next is
National Salvation Army Week. It's already been presented. I move ratification.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The next one's a resolution to the town of Westlake for their Declaration Day, which is Monday, and I would move for approval.
Is that declaration or decoration?
Decoration.
Decoration.
It's Memorial Day, right?
Yeah, it's Memorial.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Next to our certificate of appreciations for Margie Thomas and Mid-America Services. Those are both for ratification only, and I'd move for their approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And the last one, Your Honor, is certificate of appreciation Tarrant County Credit Union, and I believe Lily Newfarmer is here.
Mm-hmm.
You'll meet me at the podium.
See Lily and Catherine both back there.
On Commissioner Johnson's behalf, I move ratification.
I'll second.
Well, now, wait a minute. We have a motion on Commissioner Johnson's behalf, seconded by Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah.
We might ought to go ahead and make a motion, or second by
Don't be
Commissioner Brooks.
messing with the record.
We've got, it passes unanimously.
Y'all turn around, they want to take a picture.
Wanted a picture with you for years.
Lily,
Lily, thank you
We-
for what you do for our We really appreciate it. Please make any comments.
Good morning.
Good morning, Lily.
Thank you, Your Honor and Commissioners. I appreciate it, as always. Very kind, supportive of the credit union. We're really very happy to sponsor this event because it's our little way of being able to honor the hardworking employees of Tarrant County. So we're very, very happy to do so. I'd also like to take a minute to thank the hard back scene efforts that Catherine Rotter and Ann Farmer do every year to really make this event the success it is. I just sort of show up, make sure things are the way they're supposed to be, and get on the stage and talk a little bit. But they really do all the hard work. So I would like to recognize both of those ladies. Thank you.
I'll stand up.
And finally, I'd like to thank you all, Judge and members of the court, for your continued support of Tarrant County Credit Union. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, you have before you our consent agenda with the exception of item 9F1, which needs to be removed from the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Did you get the motion and second straight on this certificate of appreciation?
You moved it, he seconded it,
I thought that's the way it would be. I wasn't sure.
I think.
That is revisionist history.
Mr. Manius.
Members of the court, we have two additional items to bring to you this morning. The first one, we're requesting that the court approve the submission of a Justice Assistant Grant application to CJD, which is in the Governor's Office, for criminal justice improvement projects.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Since we're talking about the Criminal Justice Department, I would make a comment that there was a little editorial run yesterday that I don't necessarily think told the whole story on our DA's department. In fact, it even implied that there were certain things that were done that I don't think actually were. And so hopefully, I know that some people have spoke with the gentleman that wrote that, and hopefully he'll go back and correct his.
Yeah, we do keep these DNA samples. In fact, we've been keeping them for
Always.
years, and I don't have a clue where this fellow's coming from.
Well, and not only that, I think in a lot of instances, again, at the direction of Mr. Curry, a lot of stuff, they don't file charges until a lot of that stuff was taken care of. And so there's a lot of differences, I think, and, I'm not saying that what one county does is right or wrong, but I do believe that Tim went out of his way to, again, as we said, and has been said many times, to not take advantage of folks and to make sure that it was very serious about the indictments that he brought, and that he didn't take that very lightly, and that he would go out of his way to try to ensure that he didn't just blindly go about indicting people for things. So
I think he was very uninformed on what he wrote about.
I couldn't even figure out what the basis of the story was.
Right. Surprised it was in the paper.
Several things. I would hope that we would not wait for the gentleman to issue a clarification or a retraction. I would hope that Mr. Wilder or someone from the DA's office
They told me 600 words or less.
will do the 600 words or less and clarify the situation. And secondly, as much as I love the Dallas District Attorney, he is one of my personal heroes and a product of a Tarrant County law school. When he looked around for people to run his office, he came to Tarrant County to
And got
get
them.
those folks. So,
I might just add, the district clerk in Dallas County has been over here. And there was an article in the Dallas News where the district clerk over there went to Commissioner's Court begging for more space, which you all gave me about 10 years ago to house this kind of evidence across the street. So the professor said that he got that from some attorney and did not check his facts.
It should be stated that the reason that we don't have all of those erroneous prosecutions and after-the-fact exonerations in Tarrant County that they have had in Dallas County is because Tim Curry always had the policy of testing the evidence before there was even an indictment. And that evidence has never been destroyed in Tarrant County. It is preserved even to this day. So nothing in that article was factual.
I realize it was an opinion, but when people read it, they're going to assume that it was based on fact.
Okey dokey.
Any other discussion on our submission for our Justice and Criminal Assistance Grant application? There being none, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the Court, on item number 2, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court consider and approve an exception to the county's travel policy as it relates to JP Precinct 4.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Just one additional comment, members of the Court. As you see on our section, we did do a receive and file. Once again, the Tarrant County Jail has passed jail standards for, and it's a repetitious thing now, and it's a compliment, and the letter says it to both the Sheriff's Department and the Commissioner's Court for ensuring that our jail meets standards.
You know,
How many years in a row is that?
Gosh, about 1990 since '95, so it's 14 years.
and you know, I've had the opportunity these past 2 years to sit with the inspectors at the end of the inspection, and they literally cannot say enough good things, not only about the Sheriff's Department and the job that they do, and the fact that when they go through and they talk with the prisoners, that there are not issues, you know, that they can tell that this is not just, well, we got prepared for the jail inspection, and as soon as we leave, everything's going to change. But they say the same thing with regards to the facility folks, Mr. Phillips, and the fact that, you know, if there's anything wrong, it's usually fixed before they get off the floor. And if it's not fixed before they get off the floor, it's certainly fixed by the end of the day or by the beginning of the next day. And so over and over again, they just reiterated how clean the facility was, how well run, how the lack of complaints. They hit all that area. So I really appreciate facilities. I appreciate the medical part. Appreciate all of the folks that work on that, and they're proud of the fact that they passed jail inspection, and it's very obvious that all of the employees over there take that very seriously and do their best to keep that up. And I think that those inspections are going more and more to a kind of a we're here surprise type basis than what they have been in the past. And I feel certain that for us that will make no difference whatsoever. And that's what the jail inspector said. They again could not have been more pleased with the way everything was handled and with the job and performance of our folks.
The Sheriff's Department and facilities both do an outstanding job, but I just can't thank JPS enough for the service they provide out there and the changes that they've made here in the last few years. It's a joint effort by everybody, but Robert, we appreciate what's happening.
Perhaps this is a day for comparison to our neighbor to the east. I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
If the professor wants an article to write,
Let him write that one.
And do some
Ms.
research.
Snyder?
Management Board is recommending the approval of 2 claims. One does Sarah and Brian Scribner and Reggie Nichols, and the amount shown on your agenda.
Move for approval.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Phillips?
Good morning.
Morning.
It's requested that Commissioners Court approve the building renovation to the Tim Curry Criminal Justice Center 6th floor southeast corner court suites to convert those suites from conference rooms to jail inmate holding cells.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Have we kind of talked with everybody there and
Many times.
That's the next item.
any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. And now the next item.
It is requested that Commissioners Court approve the temporary relocation of the 141st Civil District Court from the Tim Curry Criminal Justice Center to the Family Law Center 4th floor vacant court suite, and the 342nd Civil District Court from the Tim Curry Criminal Justice Center to the Family Law Center 5th floor vacant court suite, and the relocation of the 348th Civil District Court from the Tim Curry Criminal Justice Center 6th floor to the 7th floor.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Are they fairly happy?
This is temporary.
Correct.
They're fairly happy.
Motion passes unanimously. Did we have a
Thank
second?
you.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I think.
I move to receive and file the personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file personnel agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Glenn.
Ms. Brewer? Good morning.
We have one item for your approval this morning. This is to accept the Texas Department of State Health Services Community Preparedness Section Bioterrorism Discretionary Fund Projects Phase 1 grant contract.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Come on down, Mr. Beecham.
Check out the tie.
Well, it's not quite as wild as it was last week, but it's, you know.
Was purchased on sale in the purchasing rack. Next time I go shopping, I'll ask for the bean counter rack to dress down.
That's right. Yeah.
I think it looks like a slot machine.
I just want to know what garage sale he goes to every week. I mean, it's just, each week's a different ties.
I told him I liked it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have 2 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for bid number 2009-071. It's an annual contract for the purchase of asphalt hydrostatic distributor and a cabin chassis. Recommendation will be toward a per unit price basis with the optional price list included. Selecting as our primary vendor Fort Worth Freightliner, as our secondary vendor Southwest International Trucks.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
As a point of information in regards to the statements that were made a couple of weeks ago as far as hybrid vehicles, you'll notice on this court communique, which we plan to have on everything from here on out, there'll be a price comparison at the very bottom to show the difference in cost of hybrid vehicles, so you'll know what those costs will be. And these are all Tier 3 engines, by the way. Our second item is second last item is a bid award recommendation for RFO number 2009-101. This is a request for offer for the purchase of a 2009 Collins Grand Bantam 16-passenger bus for the Resource Connection. Recommendation is to buy from the buy board contract awarding to One Stop Bus Stop, amount of $69,054.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Hey, Jack, you and I had a conversation in the hall earlier, and we go back to the first item on the asphalt distributor. And the delivery of that product was 6 months. And there's other equal vehicles, I guess, that can be had in 2 to 3 months. I see that as a problem. And I know you explained to me the legal end of it. I would like for y'all to see if you can work on that as far as your bid specifications. That's a pretty significant split between 2 months probably. And I know you said they may get it quicker, and I'm not sure you can do anything about it, but I'd like for you to explore it.
In the past, and I've seen this and fought this for 35 plus years, you could include a penalty clause. What they're going to give you when you do that, they're going to give you the worst case scenario. Nobody wants to be dinged with a late delivery charge.
Can't you specify a shorter delivery in your specifications? Say, 90 days or something like that?
We can certainly check the market and see. I think you might be limiting competition by doing that, and Ray will have to answer that portion of that for me or with me. I think the Freightliner folks, I think we can improve that. We know them well. We've purchased a lot of units from them. They've even indicated that the delivery will be quicker than that.
I think one of the problems you may have on that would be is if you're wanting it in, depending upon if you want it by a specified date, it was in the budget, why not have gone out for bid at the beginning of the year and then said, okay, we have to have it delivered by whatever the 90 days are?
I think it doesn't matter. I don't see any difference in this and you putting out a bid for a building, or you're going to put out a bid for a contractor to do some work, and one contractor's got one price and the other one is slightly lower, but his time frame to do the work is twice as long. Why would you give it to somebody who's twice as long because they're a very small amount difference in the price when they're holding up all your employees for doing their work with a completed project, or in this case, the right piece of equipment at the right time? I see us a very close parallel. We're bidding we bid a jail, and if one contractor's 300 days or 500 days and another one's 800, there's a heck of a difference. And in a piece of equipment that we use all the time, there's a difference between 60 days and 180.
Unless you use a guaranteed delivery date with a penalty clause, there's no certainty that Southwest International would have their unit here when they said they would.
Ask them. Well, I still think you can. Sure. I don't see why you can't request a shorter delivery.
We're ready to go October 1, whenever the capital budgets are approved. We're ready to go to go out to bid. It takes time for folks to determine exactly what they want in the budget year, and that's always a delay. But we can certainly do that. Check with them and give you the best information we can. But we'll just make a recommendation.
You're buying copying paper, and one guy says, I can have it to you tomorrow, and the other guy says, I can have it to you in 60 days. Which one are you going to buy? You going to sit there with no copying paper? Doesn't make sense. I don't know why you can't, through our legal department, figure that out.
Let us take this as an assignment and bring it back to court with some additional information. We'll talk with legal and purchasing and bring you some additional comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Lamb?
Thank you, Judge. I'm here today to request that Commissioners Court approve an agreement to contribute funds equal to 10% of the cost of right-of-way acquisition. We contribute these funds to the Texas Department of Transportation for right-of-way acquisition along 377 from Winscott Plover Road to IH-20. I do have one point of clarification in the background. This project is also included in the bond program. It states in the communique to be $6.4 million. It's actually $1.5. That does not impact the action I'm asking for today.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
This is one of the on-system projects.
This is an on-system project, yes, sir.
Any appointments today? I might just mention to the court that we have some vacancies right now in the Child Protective Services Board, and I know I have one, Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Van Ravensway, and Commissioner Johnson. I believe we all have a vacant spot on there, so and remember that that's a particular board that we have to do a background check before we can actually make that appointment, but that may be something that we want to. I was not aware. I had overlooked the fact that I didn't have one, so I don't know if the rest of y'all were aware of that or not. But you might begin thinking about that and see what we might be able to do on that. You have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manius?
Thank you, Your Honor. We have several items for the court this morning. The first one is the monthly update from the hospital district. Mr. Early is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Mr. Manius. Members of the court, this past Saturday we held a foundation fundraising for the JPS Foundation. I want to thank the participation from court members. In particular, I want to thank Mr. Manius and his wife did a tango that really stimulated the audience quite a bit, and then he went into this breakdancing thing that was amazing, and I appreciate what you did to help us raise money.
Did you expect anything less?
I did not expect anything less. When you spun and that disco ball came down, I was impressed.
Man's got to do what a man's got to do.
For the cause.
I'm beginning to be kind of glad that we were a little delayed in getting back from Baton Rouge and didn't get a chance.
Well, I think being at LSU was a wise move on your part. But we did actually have a wonderful event that sort of once again shows a new face to JPS, which I'm proud of, and we had a great deal of community support, which I was very pleased with, and it was a very nice event. And what that really does is help us raise money for things that we can't ordinarily take care of, such as people that fall out of the realm for services in cancer relief and some other things that we need additional funds for that don't fit into categories. And Kimberly Britton and the Foundation Board do a great job, and I'm proud of them, and they're working hard. The other thing we had at the board meeting that was very helpful was Commissioner Fickus's appointee, Trent Petty, who headed up a 7-month-long sort of study and help in our emergency department, issued his report. All of you, as court members, will be receiving that for your files. If you'd like to have it, it made 11 major recommendations. The thing that I want to comment on, and I thank Mr. Spangler for reporting on it, is that it's ongoing. This is a report at this time. It's a culmination of 7 months. There are 11 recommendations. We'll come back and continue to make recommendations, and we'll continue to follow up on those recommendations. It was approved by the board, but there's going to be some financial aspects to it that will be incorporated in next year's budget, and there'll be some policy changes that will come out of it. And I think that report was well-deserved and well appreciated, but it's also been a long time coming. Not that it took them 7 months long. It should have been presented to you and others in this community about 4 or 5 years ago. But I think we definitely are moving in the right directions with trying to handle an emergency department that's tough. It's a difficult place. The other thing is we had a board retreat, which is the first time we've had a board retreat, and I think it was very helpful.
some of your precinct administrators attended, which is kind and I appreciate, but more importantly, the fact that our board got together and began to work on, one, getting to know each other. I think Steve Montgomery made the best comment. He said, I've been on the board for a period of time and I don't even know my fellow board members other than the once a month I see them. And that helps a board work together to understand their perspectives and their ideas, because as you all well know, because you appoint them, our board's very diverse. And to be able to put them in one room to discuss potential for improvement and potential about growth was very helpful. So we had a 2-day event that I think served the board and the community well. We'd like to do the same thing with the executive team as well. It's important to do those type of events, and it's important to sit down and discuss policies and approaches for this hospital district, especially if we are to change the culture. In the same realm of changing the culture, I had a very positive meeting with representatives from Texas Health Resources, in particular the downtown Harris Methodist site. And we met with them about locating personnel, JPS personnel, within inside their hospital to talk about getting people that are potential connection patients out of their hospital and back into the JPS system. And I think that was, it's a positive move we're making. I also met with Kurt King yesterday and discussed with him Arlington and Arlington Memorial and how we can help there and better our relationships with their group in Arlington. And I'm also making a presentation, I believe it's next month, to the THR board in our efforts to continue to reach out to the hospital community. We haven't done that very much in the past, and I think that's going to help as well. So those are the highlights of what we had. Again, you all will be getting copies and receive copies of the emergency department report. If you have any questions, I'm available to you. Thank you, Judge.
You've given me a segue to ask you about the report that the City of Arlington, Tarrant County, and the Chamber gave to the board several months ago. At that time, there was a recommendation to go forward with an RFP to see what services might best fit Arlington. What's the status of that?
That is still in that was one of the topics that we discussed yesterday, and that is what we do for Arlington and the surrounding areas. I met with folks from Grand Prairie, and I met with their city council and their city manager as to the needs and the desires that they have, especially with the new clinic. We are still in the process of preparing the request for proposal. It's a fairly large request.
I've seen one draft of it. I don't know what draft number you're on by now.
I think we're in our second draft, and Mr. Stutes is heading up that project, and we'll continue to keep you and your staff updated as to where that report is and when we go out for the RFPs. I think the size of that RFP is a bit encompassing, and we just don't want to miss anything.
And I just have to remind everybody that any place else in the United States, a community of 380,000 people, is a big deal.
Right.
It's bigger than St. Louis or Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. There's a lot of unserved need in Arlington, and especially Precinct 2. And Grand Prairie is one of those places, and I'm pleased to see that you were talking with them about that clinic location. But not too much further to the west of that is a huge area of Arlington that has nothing.
Well, I think there's two things, and I would go and expand upon the necessity and the need for why that's so important. I think this RFP is critically important because if we make a mistake and we don't do it right, people aren't going to be likely to want to go back and revisit it very quickly. So I think you need to get it right on the first attempt, and you need to provide the services that are needed. And I think that's critically important. That's why I think my discussion yesterday was helpful. And I plan on going over to Arlington and meeting with the emergency docs and the other folks over at Arlington Memorial in just one case. And I'll meet with the others. And if you have suggestions on people that you want me to sit down with independently, I'll be happy to take your lead.
I just want that list of recommendations that came from that committee to remain in front of you.
Yes, ma'am. It shall, and I appreciate your comments.
First off, I want you to thank the board. I know that board puts in a tremendous amount of hours, tremendous amount of time toward the job that they do. I, too, feel like that retreat was something that it hopefully did give them an opportunity to get to know one another, maybe on a little bit better basis than just coming to a monthly either committee meeting or board meeting and discussing the agenda. So I applaud you for going forward with that, and hopefully that will be something that you'll see lasting effects as you go on down the road. Can you tell me a little bit about how we're doing, or what's the latest on some of the federal money? Because I know as we've gone through the budget this year, we weren't sure exactly where the federal money was going to be, and have we gotten any indications, or has that money started coming in as we had expected?
Well, the emphasis, as Steve could well tell you, the emphasis thus far on stimulus money is in the direction of IT and looking at IT projects. We have submitted a few proposals for our IT needs, and we've provided those submissions up to Washington, and we're looking, and I think we are on the list, along with others, to try to figure out stimulus money for that. There's a lot of talk about stimulus money in other ways, but they haven't released funds, nor they have released what the money is.
Okay.
It's just a lot of talk. We have looked to some folks in Washington to help us out. They also work with Parkland and some of the other area hospitals. We're also working through the Texas Hospital Association and the American Hospital Association, who are keeping us in line to make sure that if there is money available, we're in line to get it. Don't want to miss out on that. Where I think I'm very interested in looking at stimulus funds is certainly a need for us in the county is there any additional funds for federally qualified health centers? And at this point, we haven't seen any money other than the fact that they loosened up a little bit and allowed us the possibility of our second FQHC. But I think we need to be in constant guard for any additional money to deal with a sector of our population that we find out of health care.
And y'all are starting your budget process. I would encourage you, I know that we're all a little anxious about that, but to continue to look for the opportunity of maybe helping people in a time when they're strapped financially, and maybe lowering that tax rate a little bit.
And the one thing we won't do, Judge and Commissioners, is we won't put in stimulus dollars to prop up a budget. We don't put things in our budget on a hope or faith. And I know that there are other entities that do that and will have a portion of their budget based on the fact of whether they get stimulus money or not. I'm happy that the federal government is discussing stimulus money, but it's not here and it's not part of our budget. So as we go forward, we'll do that. And we always have a sensitivity to trying to figure out those that are outside. We are continuing to see numbers increase of those who are needing the Connection program. And our outreach for that has been successful, but we need to be real successful at our throughput as well. Again, as I mentioned to this court, I don't want to look just at a number and say, look how much we've increased people in our Connection program. If they still can't get appointments, we haven't done anything to help them.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Robert. Great job. Members of Court, item B is the update on the H1N1 influenza. Ms. Brewer is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning again.
Morning.
At this point in time, we have reported 100 confirmed cases of H1N1 in Tarrant County, and yesterday we had 2 new probable cases. I'm happy to report this morning that as of today, we will be able to do our own confirmation in our lab, and Dr. Guy Dixon is here, the lab director for our program, should you have any questions following my update. This is the testing kit that we've received from the CDC, and we have been verified for testing here. That test takes approximately 6 hours, depending on the number that we have to prepare for testing and reading at the end of that period of time. You've been hearing a lot in the news about increased numbers of cases in other parts of the state and other parts of the nation. We remain vigilant here in Tarrant County. Our numbers for testing are down. We're still seeing some activity in our emergency departments. We're still seeing mild flu-like symptoms in the county. We will continue to watch this very carefully. We know that other places have seen the numbers go down, only to see them go back up again. We will continue to communicate very closely with our infection control nurses in our hospitals, our emergency departments, and our school health nurses. They have been invaluable partners in this effort. I also want to say that our Medical Reserve Corps volunteers have been tremendous. They've been very helpful in our early investigations when we had so many numbers of contacts to investigate and be in touch with. We had over 40 of our Medical Reserve Corps volunteers in action during the week and on weekends, so we really appreciate that. I do want to remind the public that as long as we have flu-like illness in our county, and we know that some of that is H1N1, to remain vigilant, to take the necessary precautions. Always wash your hands. Can't do that too much. Observe cough and sneeze etiquette. Again, crook of the arm, not in the hand. And if you're sick, stay home. And we will take any question.
Well, on the testing kit, is this something that CDC had to develop, and we're just now getting it, or is this something they've had? The testing kit, where we're doing them in-house?
I understand, and I'll let Dr. Dixon speak to it.
Yes, sir. The CDC had to develop that kit specifically for the swine flu, and that kit was available. It was first pushed out to state public health laboratories, and then it was pushed out to local public health laboratories. They prioritized it based on the jurisdictions, the local jurisdictions, the larger cities getting them first, and then we did get ours this past weekend.
Okay. How many tests can you do at a time with that particular, is it a piece of equipment or is it just a kit that goes?
It's just a reagent kit. We do them in batches of about 31 tests.
So it's about the same size batch as with our current?
It uses the same piece of equipment as our probable testing.
As the one that we use for probable. So if we're testing probables, we can't be testing the confirms at the same time?
Yes, sir. We just have one piece of equipment that does that test, so we would have to do separate runs of the batches.
And again, after we kind of get past all of this, I'd really like to sit down and discuss, as I understand it, we have a piece of equipment that will take about 30 samples at a time, and that it takes anywhere from 4 to 6 hours to determine probability, and I just heard you say about 6 hours to confirm a probable. So I would really like for us to spend some time, looking at that piece of equipment and looking at the cost and determining whether or not we feel like we may need to increase the pieces of equipment.
Are the tests to determine probability and the tests to determine, to certify an actual positive, are they different tests?
Yes, sir. The test that we use to determine the presumptive positives was a different kit. It was a different test. We were doing influenza A and then screening for the subtypes H1 and H3. That test was done first. If it was unsubtypable, if it was influenza A positive and unsubtypable for the H1 and H3 subtype, those were the tests that were then forwarded on to the CDC for confirmation, and those are the tests that we would now begin doing our own confirmation in the lab.
All right, you're throwing a new number at us. Was it H3 or H1?
This is unsubtypable. There are currently 2 subtypes that are circulating in seasonal influenza, H1 and H3. The H1 subtype was the one of interest, but we needed to rule out that it was routine season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can't just skip the probable test and go directly to the confirmation test and save time.
Yes, sir. We do have to do an influenza A screening before we move on to that confirmation piece.
So hopefully in a couple of weeks. But again, I want to tell you all how much I appreciate the work you've done for the last several weeks as we've kind of gone through this process. I know it's been stressful at times, but again, thank you all very much for the work, and then let's, begin. I'm sure you're already making notes, but let's plan on a little debriefing, hopefully in a couple of weeks, where we can kind of step back and say, okay, now what could we have done a better job at, if anything, and then be prepared for the potential fall wave, which everybody seems to be telling us that we ought to be mindful for and watchful of. So, again, thank you all very much. Any other questions, board members? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your Honor, members of the court, on item C, this concerns the FY10 budget-related issues, just two issues. The Budget Department is beginning to go through the meetings with the various departments. I believe they started yesterday, and that'll be a 2-week cycle. Also, last Friday, we received information from the Appraisal District, the May 15th report, which was a very positive report in staff's eyes. It looks like that, at least initially, that there was up to approximately 4% increase over last year. I would like to caution you, though, that this is just the first report. We'll receive another report on June 15th, which will show a greater number of protests and let us know how many properties are going to be under protest and the value of those properties. Then the final number that we use to set our tax rate on will be a July 25th date that we're looking forward to. And then we will go ahead and I guess we'll use the September 1 rate roll to assess against. So we're very positive about that. It was really good news. It was something that, quite frankly, I don't think any of us expected it would be that substantial. And so while we're optimistic about it at this time, we're going to be very interested in the June 15th roll.
I can understand your exuberation, but I will assure you that many of our constituents don't share that at all. They're very upset that their taxes have increased on their property.
Their values have increased.
I understand.
Yes, sir.
There's a real concern about what's going on at the appraisal district, and they seem to want to blame the Tarrant County, the Commissioner's Court, for that. So, there seems to, I'm hearing a whole lot of people.
I think one thing to point out on the increase, a lot of that increase was new construction and an increase in mineral values, existing properties.
I'm just saying, when somebody's house, the appraisal on their home goes up 10%, and what appears to be somewhat of a down market, you hear about it.
The one thing that I think we all need to be aware of, and probably are, is there are some homes whose fair market value may not have changed, and there may still have been a 10% increase in their taxable value. Because remember, there's a 10% annual ceiling on how much your taxable value can go up. So even if your fair market value of your house, let's say 2 years ago, went up 30%.
I'm not going to defend Tad.
Well, I'm not defending Tad either, but we need to understand that if they have not been being taxed at the fair market value, that each year it goes up 10% until it gets to that. And so, unfortunately, and it is unfortunate, I think there may be situations this year where the value could actually come down, the fair market value, and the taxable value go up because of prior years when they weren't taxed at that fair market value. And it's, it's just part of that catch-up type deal. Again, I understand what you're saying, but I think, I would be surprised, too, I guess, if there was a significant increase in fair market value.
I agree with Commissioner Fickus that it is unfortunate that the name of that appraisal district is the Tarrant County Appraisal District, and I wish the heck they changed their name to something else.
I have suggested that they call themselves the Dallas County Appraisal District. I have been unsuccessful in getting my friends to the east to agree to that change at this point in time.
It is what it is.
Anything with the Tarrant County as part of the tag, they identify as
We get
good or bad.
blamed, we get blamed for the community college, too.
Right.
And quite honestly, while it is a tremendous efficiency that we collect taxes for a number of the entities, we get blamed for that. And so, I mean, we could basically go out and say, forget it, we're not going to save them hundreds of thousands of dollars by us collecting their taxes. And that would, while it would probably not reflect as negatively on us, it would certainly be an additional cost to our taxpayers, and we're just going to have to do a better job explaining it. Right, Mr. Mayes?
You're absolutely correct.
You're up here, I'm assuming, for a reason?
Yes, because I'm going to talk to you about the federal stimulus package.
Hot dog. You want to talk about a little debt here.
Let's talk about some real money now.
Yeah. Forget about these millions, we're talking trillions now.
Trillions, okay. You're talking about the Fed's debt.
Members of the Court, I simply wanted to kind of put a face on this and let you all take a look at some of the numbers that we're looking at, some of those that we know that we're going to be receiving, some of those that we're competing for. Just a very quick one. Our total guaranteed as of today is $8.5 million. And you see the distribution of those funds. We still have pending about $3.1 million. That's going to be in actually the USDA, the school lunch program. That $82,000 is a piece of equipment for the kitchen at Juvenile that have submitted a grant to. And then you see the transportation amount, which is $393 million. I believe those were for county road projects within Tarrant County. I'd also like to tell you that we're going to be meeting.
That's not county road projects.
$393 million for county roads?
That's not county, that's the connector.
Okay.
Those are roads.
Roads within Tarrant County. I thought that's what I said.
Not county types, but county roads.
Roads within our county.
We could, yeah, okay, go right ahead.
Go ahead.
Anyway, we are going to be working with the City of Fort Worth. They've located some additional funds, hopefully in the transportation area, that they're competitive. I believe we're going to be meeting with them on Friday of this week to see if there's anything we can do collaboratively with the city on that issue. There are no more comments about this. We'll move to item E, which is the legislative issues.
I would just like to comment that there is not a thing on this list that I would consider either refusing or sending back to the federal government. These are all projects that are much needed within Tarrant County, and despite the almost partisan comments from members of this court, I'm grateful to see this money come down.
We can go to item E. This is legislative issues. We have provided a memorandum from Mr. Mendez in your packet today, and we stand ready to try to answer any questions you may have on that. Just a note, we're less than 2 weeks away from sine die in the legislature, so things are getting moving quickly.
The transportation bill is still sitting in calendars. We need desperately to get that out this week if it's really going to make it. If it doesn't come out this week, in all likelihood, what TxDOT is saying is, besides just routine maintenance and projects which have been approved to this point in time, there will be no new project construction beginning in their fiscal year 2012. So if statewide, not just in Tarrant County, but statewide, they have no money, and we need help right now in getting it out of. We hope that it's going to get out of calendars and get to the House floor. I will tell you that if it gets to the House floor, we need help with our delegation, and I would encourage you to call everybody in our delegation that you know and encourage them to support this bill if it gets to the House floor.
Who in our delegation is on calendars?
Charlie Guerin is on there, and I mean, but everybody needs a call. I mean, please don't hesitate to call Todd Smith's on transportation. He is definitely supporting it. Vicki Truitt's carrying the bill. She's definitely there, short of Vicki and Todd. Chris Turner has certainly done that as well. Other folks have indicated support, but what I'm just saying is I know Todd and I know Vicki are advocates for this bill. Everybody else needs to be called. If you've got any pull with them at all, please call them and tell them, see what you can do about getting it out of calendars, and if it gets to the floor, please support it on the floor. Because I mean, I think there was a good editorial in that paper to the east that we don't refer too much to, but basically what they've said is, if we don't accomplish this, and we don't have any more money from TxDOT, then about the only alternative we have to financing is toll roads. And none of us like the toll roads. I'd rather pay for it with increased fuel tax for a few years and those taxes be gone and then the road be free than it be tolled forever. And right now that's the only alternative that we really have.
Your Honor, that's all we have this morning.
Anything else, court members? We'll now recess the open court and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempted under sections 5501.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code.
At a rehearsal.
Having returned from closed, we'll now take action on the following matters.
Under the DA item, the first item is a receipt of a check in the amount of $2,081.72 in settlement of our subrogation recovery.
So moved.
Have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The second item is an authorization to file a third-party claim with the OxyContin class action settlement. This is actually a ratification of GK's signature so that everything is on the up and up.
Have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And the third item is the settlement of a claim with Misty Taylor with authorization for a check in the amount of $2,500 payable to Misty Taylor. This amount is to be taken from self-insurance, and we request the auditor be authorized to issue this check without it first appearing on the claims register for approval.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. There being no further business, we're adjourned. Thank y'all.
Is everybody done in Arlington?
As far as I know.
Yeah.
As far as I know. We're done. We're done.
Y'all ready to celebrate?